guys remember the movie The Diary of a Mad Black Woman by Tyler Perry? There's a character in that movie that I've been thinking about quite a lot. Not Kimberly Elise's character, but she was Kimberly Elise's cousin in the movie, and she was a drug addict. What I love about this character is that at the end of the movie, she is the one that walked into the church singing her guts out, worshiping revival into that church, which says to me that people can know a version of you that doesn't necessarily align with who you are. Because there's a scene in that movie where this character comes, because she's married to Tyler Perry's character, right? And she comes to the house, and Kimberly Elise is happy to see her cousin. She hasn't seen her in a long time, and she's like, "Hey girl, how you doing?" But the cousin is embarrassed to be seen by Kimberly Elise because she is drugged up and on drugs. So Kimberly Elise says to Tyler Perry's character, "Why is she behaving this way? Why is she embarrassed? Why doesn't she want me to, say hello to her? I haven't seen her in a long time." And Tyler Perry says, "Listen, every time that lady comes back in the house, she steals something and she goes back to the streets to go live, and do drugs on the streets." But like I said, what I love about this character is that she was the one that had the spiritual gift of worship, and through worship being able to bring revival. And a part of me thinks and believes that because of her past of being on drugs and of being a drug addict, that is a big part of the reason why she's able to tap in and bring revival and use her spiritual gifts to awaken the gift of worship in other people, in anybody who hears her sing and worship. So her journey on the surface may seem like, she's the one to be dismissed. She's the one to be discarded because she's on drugs. However, God has the final say. When you surrender to Him, you will not only be done with the addiction that you struggle with, but you will also be able to tap into spiritual gifts that you might not have even known that you have. Spiritual gifts that will stir revival in other people simply because your testimony is so strong and so poignant, because you're testifying from a true and authentic place, and you're worshiping from a place where you can stir revival in other people. So don't be afraid to stir up that gift in you, no matter what it looks like to the outside eye. Because when they saw her, they saw the cousin that was on drugs. They saw Tyler Perry's wife in the movie, who is the one coming to the house to steal furniture and steal goods and steal whatever she can get her hands on to go trade that for drugs. That's how they see her. And that's valid because she did have a drug addiction. However, and I love me a good however, that was not the end of her story. Through whatever she had suffered through, God was still able to use her and still able to pour into her spiritual gifts that probably were laying untapped within her, until she got back to the place where she was able to pour out from herself what God, not me saying God, what God had poured into her. And because of her experience and what she had been through, the potency of what she was sharing was able to stir revival. I say all this to say, God has the final say. No matter what it can look like, Chomi. Even if it looks to you like, hey, it's over for this one, she's done. Okay. Good. Let them think you're done. Because the spiritual gifts that God pours into you are literally only between you and God. But when you use them and pour from that overflow that God has blessed you with, it will pour onto others and it will bless other people's lives, Chomi. The very ones that counted you out.